Hello and welcome to this session about the planet Earth, where we are going to explore the reasons why we need to conserve it and live more sustainably. Thank you for joining us today, and I'm looking forward to explaining a little bit more about the planet that we live on. My name's Claire and I'm delighted to be here with you talking about the work that we do at Matternon Sustaining Now. We're a social enterprise on a mission to empower whole communities to live more sustainably. So for today, I'm going to show you the 7 Earth spheres. Now, the Earth spheres are a brilliant way of breaking the Earth into different areas for us to examine. And we call it Earth system science. And it's a way of being able to show how changing something about one sphere can affect how another one works, looking at the Earth as a big system. It's almost like they're layers of an onion. So I wonder if you'll have a favourite sphere by the end of this session. And we talk about these when we have workshops in schools or talk to interested people such as yourselves, as it gives you an understanding of how everything on the planet is interconnected and how disturbing one part may disturb another that we hadn't even considered. I'm also excited to welcome today some of our junior ambassadors who are always on hand here at Matternon to keep everything on track. Lizzie, my colleague, has been asking them some questions that I'm going to ask you as well, and we'll get to see and hear what they think about the 7 spheres and maybe watch them squirm a little as they try and answer some really difficult questions. Hopefully you'll have a go at answering alongside them at home too. So for today we have Henry, Serafina, Mayissa, Rosie, Elijah and Emir to help us, so thanks very much to them. Thanks guys. Now, I wonder how many of you will already have some idea of what the 7 spheres are. But don't worry if you don't, because I'm going to obviously help you throughout this session, talk you through them one by one. Now, the 7 spheres are quite easy to identify once you have been told what they are, and they are labelled like this. Again, don't worry if you don't understand what I'm talking about at the moment, but hopefully you will later on. So we have the Cryosphere, the Hydrosphere, the Atmosphere, the Biosphere, the Magnetosphere, the Lithosphere, and the Technosphere. But for today, I would like to start with my own personal favourite sphere, the Biosphere. Right, so before I carry on, we need to have a think about what the Biosphere actually might be. Junior ambassadors, can you help?
Is it all the living things? The sphere where all the plants and the trees and the animals and the people.
So would you, the biosphere is like life on the planet.
Okay, can you go into that anymore? What kind of life do you think it is involved in the biosphere?
Like the creatures, the little things inside the soil, and obviously us.
And us humans, of course.
That's right, thanks guys. You did such a fantastic job. It's all the life on planet Earth. So that's everything that is alive. The tiny microscopic bacterium, right through to the largest trees in the ground, and everything in between is part of the biosphere. When we talk about living things or organisms in ecosystems, we call it biodiversity. And it's a measure of how many different species live in a certain place. How many species there are in the entire world or the entire biosphere is up for extreme debate. To be honest, scientists just don't have a clue. There are so many hard to reach and remote areas of the planet, such as ocean floors, dense humid forests. And there are also places that you may not have even thought of, such as inside other animals. When you have so many things to count, it's quite important to understand what you are looking for and what actually is alive. Now, do you remember from your science lessons at school what makes something alive? Now, there are a few things, and some of them aren't obvious, are they? But let's have a look. What makes something alive? Okay, so firstly, they are going to grow and develop either from an embryo or a seed all throughout their lives. Secondly, they will use energy, which they get either from the sun or from the food that they ingest. Thirdly, they must be able to reproduce, which means that they have to be able to make more of the same species. And all living things are made of cells, whether that is from a single cell, such as this bacterium, or from trillions of cells, such as you and me. Anything alive will respond to its environment. So animals or anything that's alive will like different conditions, such as wet, dry, the warm, the cool, and they always survive better when they find their perfect place to live. Lastly, any living thing is able to adapt and evolve to be able to survive better if its living conditions change. So anything that does all of those things is classed as living and is part of the biosphere. Okay, so now we know what the biosphere is. Let's move on and start to think about how life in the biosphere might interact with all the other spheres. It's a fascinating journey and I love sharing it with people, and I really hope you enjoy learning about it today. So how many of these spheres do you think the biosphere will interact with? Remember, there are 6 others, okay? Right, firstly, let's examine one of the most important spheres in the biosphere. One of the most important spheres on Earth, the Hydrosphere. Now, the Hydrosphere, being where all the water on Earth is found, I'm sure your first thoughts are of rivers, lakes, the oceans. But what about the water found inside living things, in the biosphere? We all know that water is essential to life, but did you know how much water is in certain organisms? Let's have a guessing game. Here are 3 living things: a jellyfish, an apple, and a human. What do our junior ambassadors think?
And then what do you think about an apple?
Like 50 something.
50 something?
I think one of them has 70%.
So which one do you think has 70% water? They were jellyfish, apple, and humans.
Jellyfish has 70%
Okay.
because it lives in the sea and there's lots of water in the sea.
Jellyfish is 98.
Okay. That's a lot, isn't it?
Scientist live.
Ah, that's good.
Apple is 86.
Okay.
And
what do you think about human?
73.
Wow, some of them did really well. Serafina nearly got it all. They know their stuff. Let's just find out exactly how much water is in these. Okay, so a jellyfish is made of 98% water. The apple has 84% water in it, and the human is 70%. It's crazy how much water is found in these things. No wonder drinking water is extremely important to us. How did you get on with the quiz yourselves? So water is found inside living things, but water is also found in lakes, rivers, in the air, in clouds. Well, did you know that the biosphere also affects the things that happen in the hydrosphere, such as rainfall? Look at this. One example of this interaction is a bacteria called Pseudomonas syringae. By hanging around in the atmosphere, it actually causes water to form into ice, causing it to actually start raining. Another example, if you look here, this rainforest is actually creating its own rain. Water is evaporating off the tree's leaves into the air where it condenses into rain clouds. When rainforests are cleared and destroyed, as they are being in the Amazon and Africa, deserts often take their place, as rainfall decreases so much in a process called desertification. It's tough to think about everything else that happens as a result of rainforests disappearing, as of course it affects the biodiversity found there, causes changes to our atmosphere too, which brings us quite nicely to the next sphere. Let's have a look. That's right. The next slide I've got for you here shows the atmosphere. This is where we find all the gases wrapped around the Earth. Now, the atmosphere would be really different if life didn't exist. In fact, before life existed, 3 to 4 billion years ago, the Earth was completely uninhabitable. The atmosphere was thick with carbon dioxide, lots of poisonous gases such as methane and ammonia, and very little oxygen at all. As you can see here from this picture, it was not a nice place to live. Eventually, after a billion years or so, early life began. Now, this consisted of teeny tiny blue-green bacteria and the protists, and they had a superpower. These tiny, tiny microorganisms, the first life on Earth, could convert energy from the sun using carbon dioxide, and the waste product was oxygen. Now, slowly, and I mean incredibly slowly, but surely the levels of oxygen went up until there was enough in the atmosphere for other life forms to evolve around 2 or 3 billion years ago. Now, plants and animals, they then began to colonise first the oceans and then the land. And this process of using the sun's energy for food and producing oxygen, you may or may not know, is called photosynthesis. And the reverse of this process is called respiration. This is where food is used inside our bodies by living organisms, and carbon dioxide is released. Now, over time, the balance of carbon dioxide and oxygen has changed, and this has been depending on a number of natural processes, for example, volcanic eruptions, but it's been mainly driven by the natural processes in the biosphere of photosynthesis and respiration. You know, in fact, the amount of oxygen in the atmosphere was much higher when dinosaurs roamed the Earth, and it's actually thought it's quite possible that this is one of the reasons that they were able to grow so large, to evolve to be so big, because of the amount, there was so much oxygen for them in the atmosphere. But once again, unfortunately, this balance is changing. And this time, there's too much carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. When we destroy our large forests by burning or logging them, then less carbon dioxide is taken out of the air through photosynthesis. This means that there is now more in the atmosphere, and it is causing climate disruption. The more carbon dioxide there is in the atmosphere, then it acts as a blanket, blanket around the Earth, trapping the sun's energy. And then the Earth is becoming warmer. It's called global heating, and this is leading to catastrophic problems with our weather, from droughts to floods, as well as causing our ice to melt. This is unfortunately all because we didn't understand that by destroying the biosphere, destroying our forests, we would be changing our atmosphere so drastically. Okay, so next slide is the lithosphere. That's lithosphere, and possibly the term that you will be least familiar with whilst watching this session. Don't worry though, as it is the next sphere that I want to talk about, and it has a simple explanation, as it actually is just the Earth's crust, the hard rock and soil which surrounds our planet. Unfortunately, it does get overlooked, which is, you know, quite sad, because our rich lithosphere is where so much happens. I actually have a pretty interesting question for Lizzie and the junior ambassadors to think about, and I wonder what you will think at home. So the question is, scientists in North America have been studying the way in which soil and the biosphere interact, and they've done an amazing experiment. Here's the question they asked, and I want you to know what answer you think they got. How many animals are found in 1 acre of soil? Okay, just so you can have a bit of perspective on what an acre is. An acre is about just over half the size of a football pitch. So have a guess. How many animals in an acre of soil?
About 1,050. Probably 5,000.
5,000. Okay.
Because ants have a lot of hives, and we've got so many in our garden, and they're all near the top. So when we garden, a load of them come out. So
Okay.
1,000.
How much in the
I would
soil?
say 1,867.
70? 130 something.
Okay, definitely some good guesses in there, but I'm not sure how many of them got the right answer. I'll tell you a little bit more about the lithosphere and see if you can have a better guess. Now, the lithosphere is about 60 miles deep, and it is the recycling factory of the planet. There is evidence of this when we look at fossils, and then we understand that oil and coal are made from dead animals and plants. It's where minerals and nutrients are found, and they're made available from old life to new. These are called nutrient cycles, and the main ones are the carbon cycle and the nitrogen cycle. Now, both of these, nitrogen and carbon, are found in dead organisms, and they are both vital for life. They need to be recycled, and this is only possible because of the decomposers from the biosphere. Okay, so these dead animals in the biosphere break down the dead and decaying materials and make them available for new life to use them and thrive. And where do you think they do this? In the lithosphere, in the soil. Okay, so if these processes didn't happen, we wouldn't have plants, and most importantly, we wouldn't have food. So the soil in the lithosphere provides a perfect habitat for all of this to happen. Okay guys, so do you remember the question that I asked you right at the beginning of this session about the number of animals that are found in 1 acre of soil? Okay, so scientists in North America have discovered 124 million tiny animals. That's 124 million. So the junior ambassadors, sorry guys, you were not even close. They're at a depth of just 13 centimetres. So, just that much into the soil for an acre, they found 124 million tiny animals. It's just incredible. It makes for such a very rich and important habitat, and it just really goes to show how important life is to the lithosphere. And the lithosphere is also incredibly important as a habitat for life too. It provides a home to many animals that make their homes under the soil, burrowing animals such as meerkats and reptiles. So it's a fantastic sphere to really get your teeth into, especially when you look at it from the perspective of the biosphere. Now, I don't know if you've ever thought to do this, but a really fantastic way to see all of these processes going on in miniature is to make your own terrarium. And this is basically a little planet Earth in miniature. And, so we can put soil and gravel at the bottom, which will represent the lithosphere. The plants are the biosphere, and you have to add water, a little mini hydrosphere, and a mini atmosphere too, with all the gases being recycled by the plants. But once it's sealed, it's really incredible to watch, because there's actually a small water cycle formed through the transpiration from the leaves and the heat and light which enters through the glass. It's like a miniature greenhouse. So have a look at this video, and hopefully it will inspire you guys at home to have a go at making your own terrarium too. So hopefully that's something that you guys would like to have a go at home. And if you'd like more detailed instructions, you can download our Biosphere Fun Book from our website for free, and you can find out how to make one. But did you see at the end that we added those little tiny Lego figures? And they actually represent humans. And it's actually adding another sphere to our terrarium, the Technosphere. Now, this is important to think about what humans might do to our terrarium. What do you think, Junior Andy?
They will dig up some soil,
Yeah.
plant in it, then water it.
I don't know. Maybe they would. Oh yeah, they would create life. Like they'd carry on in life. They'd like get food, like the cavemen did at the start. And then they keep on forming and forming into what we have now. Stuff like electric stuff.
So you think
what we're using right now to cool screens, cameras, electricity.
Maybe they cut down the plants to make produce and energy, or maybe it'd be a way of seed dispersal, so they disperse the seeds somewhere else and plant more.
Oh wow, a great array of brilliant answers there. Thanks, guys. There are endless possibilities. They might find a home field, they might want to eat the plants or dig them up so they can grow more food. I really hope that they would do it in a way that would take care of our terrarium. What do you think? Now, we talk about the technosphere when we think about the ways that human behaviour impacts on the other spheres. So, for example, by cutting down trees, we add more carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, or we build houses out of rocks from the lithosphere, and we create large mines, or sometimes, we can awfully pollute the water in our hydrosphere with our dangerous chemicals from industry and agriculture. But it doesn't have to be this way. If we're careful, if we can think about how our actions will impact on the other spheres and learn to live more sustainably with the Earth, there are so many fantastic technologies that are being developed now that we are starting to really understand the negative impact that we are having on the planet. So there is hope. Recently, things like electric cars have been becoming more widespread, widely available. They can travel further and further distances. We're learning how to build energy efficient homes and buildings which have a smaller carbon dioxide footprint and therefore use less carbon dioxide, release less carbon dioxide. And our energy itself is beginning to move away from burning fossil fuels, and the amount of renewable energy from wind and the sun is improving all the time. As a world, we have set ourselves a big task to become carbon zero by 2050. Now, in order to do this, we all need to come together and change our behaviours in order to be able to achieve this ambitious but achievable target. So that's all sounding positive, but there are two other spheres which we haven't mentioned yet. Do you remember which ones? These are kind of fun. The first is the magnetosphere. Okay, it describes how the Earth is a massive magnet because it has an iron core and a north and a south pole with a gigantic magnetic field which reaches out 65,000 kilometres into space. Now, this is really exciting to think about. We are a giant magnet flying through space. It is possible that it's actually our most important sphere, as without it, we wouldn't be able to sustain life on the planet at all. And here's why. Okay, so the energy from the sun takes 499 seconds, by the way, to reach our planet. That's just less than 8 minutes and 20 seconds. But these rays, the solar radiation, are extremely powerful. They have blown away atmospheres on other planets, such as Mars, in the past. So you could argue that the magnetosphere is the most important sphere as it protects us from the solar radiation and keeps our atmosphere and hydrosphere in place. Not only this, it allows us to use electricity and all the technology which comes along with that. So without the magnetosphere, the biosphere would not even exist at all, as we would have no protection from the sun's harmful rays. A fun fact, though, about the magnetosphere and how it interacts with the biosphere, it is still a slight biological mystery, but some animals are able to use the magnetosphere to navigate and find their way around the globe, like turtles and dolphins and birds. there is a biological compass in their brains, which is able to sense north and south and allow them to travel vast distances around the globe to find feeding grounds and breeding grounds. It's truly incredible. So now for our last sphere, the cryosphere. Oh, okay, we're joking with you about the ice creams, but it's a good clue about what it is. But I'm sure the junior ambassadors will be able to help us out.
Isn't the cryosphere the ice? Like all the Atlantic, where all the snow is, where the polar bears live, the ice bits of the world.
Antarctica, the Arctic and the mountains, and where people go snowboarding and skiing. The cryosphere is all the ice.
Yeah. Can you give me some examples?
Like the South Pole and North Pole. I think it's for like the ice on the planet or the snow. So maybe that Antarctic and the Arctic. So the South Pole, North Pole.
Oh, great! We got it! Thanks, guys. It's all the frozen water on the planet, or the ice. Now, you may be surprised that it deserves its own sphere, as you might think it could be part of the Hydrosphere. However, the cryosphere is also vital to life on Earth in very different and important ways. Now, in terms of the biosphere, there are fabulously diverse and rich polar ecosystems which feed and influence the biosphere over the entire globe. For example, there are feeding and breeding grounds for many birds and marine mammals. The cryosphere is having to face big disruption and problems at the moment. Global heating caused by humans, burning too many fossil fuels, destroying rainforests, is causing sea ice and ice shelves to melt. Now, this ice is crucial and actually provides the important habitat for the tiny microscopic algae which feed the rest of the polar food chain, and in turn this affects the food chains in the entire oceanic ecosystem. So without the habitat for these algae, we'll find that biodiversity in our oceans will decrease severely, leaving decimated ocean ecosystems. Ecosystems which we rely on for the health of the entire planet and us humans. In addition to this, the ice from the large land masses of Antarctica and Greenland are actually starting to melt, and the water runoff from these large land masses is causing sea levels to rise quite catastrophically. And this will cause flooding in many coastal areas, including cities and areas where large human populations live. And lastly, we need to conserve our cryosphere as it acts as a protection from the sun's energy. Because the ice is white, you look at this slide now, it's reflecting a lot of the energy back into space, keeping the planet cooler. Without this white ice covering the top and the bottom of the planet, it will just speed up the heating of the Earth. Okay, so I don't want to end on a negative note, and this is all bad news, as it will cause sea levels in the hydrosphere to rise, the Arctic food chain to collapse, and the Earth to get hotter. And this all sounds terrible, and it is, but we must understand so that we can do something to help. By understanding what is happening to our planet and seeing it as a giant system, all interconnected, we can begin to make changes which will help everyone now and in the future to live a healthy and happy life. If you want to know what you can do to help and to find out more positive things about what are happening around the globe to help create a more sustainable future, please follow us on social media. We can be found on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and we are always trying to promote the positives and create a community of people who are able to change the way we live. So all of Earth's spheres connect in amazing and sometimes surprising ways. And it's important as earth scientists that we think about what these are and how changing one thing will affect another, and not just taking one part at a time. In this way, we can limit the impact our actions have, and we can live more sustainably. So, having learnt a little bit about all the spheres, I wonder which is your favourite one. Let's hear from our junior ambassadors and see which are their favourites and why.
I like the Hydrosphere because it's really important to look after water so we can drink it. And I like the Biosphere because I like animals and trees. I like Lithosphere.
I think it's a battle between the Technosphere, the Biosphere, and the Magnetosphere.
Why is that? Why those three? What do you like about them?
I like the Biosphere because it's like all the life. I think that's quite good. Like, I like that. That's quite interesting. And the Magnetosphere, I think magnets are fun, and obviously it's really good and how humans have discovered it and ways to use them. And the Technosphere, well, I like tech, so.
Can you remember them all?
Magnetosphere.
Wow! Can you tell me why?
Because it's the electric, and I like electric trains the most. Trains are my favourite vehicle. I'm not sure. That's a tricky one.
It is, isn't it? They're all really good.
I like all of them.
Do you have a favourite?
Not really.
No, just all of them. Because they're
Yeah.
all amazing, aren't they? Yeah, I think I would find it hard to choose as well.
Oh, those are brilliant answers. I'm so glad you guys can enjoy the spheres, and some of you like all of them, which is even better. Mine's still the Biosphere, but actually, because all the other spheres are so important to it, I guess I love them all. I'm going to pass you over to my colleague Lizzie now, who is going to tell you all about our resources and how you and your family can find out more about Earth system science and have fun along the way with our games. Thanks for watching, and remember to look after all of the Earth's 7 spheres.
Hi, I'm Lizzie from Maintenon Sustaining Now. Have you ever wondered, how does the polar ice keep the Earth cool? Or why are algae and lichens so important to biodiversity? We have created Diversity Deck Eco-Play card games, 16 unique fun and educational decks of cards based on sustainability science and the Earth's 7 spheres. Diversity Deck card games allow you to play classic card games such as Snap, Go Fish, Blackjack and Rock Paper Scissors, whilst providing a great way to introduce different levels of learning as starting points of conversation around sustainability topics. We'd love to help you, your family and friends understand the importance of sustainability, the climate crisis, and looking after our amazing planet in a fun way with all the family that also helps support the UK national curriculum. Our goal is to teach children from a young age, adults and future generations about the importance and subject of sustainability to bring about positive change and ensure a happy world for us and generations to come. We'd love to hear from you if you would like to write to us about the different things you're doing in your local environment and community. Please email hub@mantenon.org.uk. Or perhaps you would like to support our work and learn more about sustainability by purchasing a Diversity Deck card game or visiting the educational hub on our website, mantenon.org.uk. Thank you very much and have fun.